Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Liv and this is Colouring with Liv, and in this video I'll be going over how I colour this leaf or the leaves and foliage on this teapot page in Johanna Basford's Small Victories or Mes Petites Victoires. And I'll be using these 3 Polychromos pencils by Faber Castell. So I'm starting off with my shadow colour in 278 Chrome Oxide Green, and I'm just going right up into the edge, so make sure that pencil is really sharp so you can get right into the edge, and just lightly kind of head towards the middle, so more pressure on the edge and lightly. And then for the mid colour I was using 170 in May Green, so that's more of a circular motion, and then Ivory for the highlight in 103. So again I was just using more of a circular motion, so trying to do quite light layers for the base, and the more layers you add, the easier it is to add a little bit more pressure as you go along. And I was sort of trying to almost do like strokes like you would do with a marker pen. So you would add sort of lighter strokes on one bit and then more pressure on another section, depending on where you want more of that colour to be. So this colouring page is actually a buddy colour with my new colouring friend Soledad from A Cup of Colour. So we decided to do this page for February, and we were kind of discussing what colouring page to do. So at first we were going to do one around Christmas, but then Soledad was a little bit too busy over Christmas, so we were like, okay, let's do one for February. And we both agreed on this teapot page. I first saw a colouring of this page on Pinterest, so then I found that it's actually by Kyra from A Pictured Purpose, and I absolutely love her version. It's super colourful and bright, and you know, leaves are green, so I'm not going to change too many of the colours, so I decided to just try and use her version as a reference to kind of help me make my colouring page a little bit better. So it was always there, me trying to think, okay, let's try and make the green a little bit like her green that I can see. And when I was swatching out some of the colours, just by looking at the pencil colours, I felt like I wasn't really getting what I wanted. So then I headed over to Karen's channel from MyColourfulCountryLifetps, and she has a video on colour swatches of green Polychromos pencils. So I found that really helpful, and I found that the May Green and Ivory went well together. At first I wasn't going to use Ivory as the highlight. I was thinking something like a grass green, but it kind of makes sense to use something like a white or ivory as a highlight. And then for the shadow colour, I was thinking something a little bit more muddy in colour, or something else like a pine green. But then when I saw the name of Chrome Oxide Green, it reminded me that I actually used it in another colouring page that I did in Kirby Roseanne's Fragile World. So there was a Jaguar page where I used Chrome Oxide Green for the shadows of the murky water, and I found that that worked really well there, but I haven't really used it like this before, so I thought I'd give that a try and see how that looks. So I did a quick swatch and I was happy with that. So I thought that would be great to show you guys, to show you that just trying to stick with 3 colours is just, I guess, easy to think about when you're starting out colouring, or you just want to relax and not think about layering too many colours. So I thought that was the perfect thing to do. And I did use a little bit of the grass green colour later on, but to begin with I just used these 3 colours. So now I'm just speeding up the process so I won't have to bore you, but I did make another time lapse of the full colouring page from a top down view, so you can see the whole page in motion. But I created this video to show you what I just did for the leaves and foliage, and how I used green here. And another little tip that I found out recently is that you should just stick to the same base colour. So if you're starting with the shadow colours, keep on continuing doing that throughout. If you're doing mid colours as your base colour, colour that throughout in that style, because it will change the colour of the finished product. So keep that in mind. So when you're colouring the leaves, just make sure you're aware of where the light sits. So the light from the top, so you want that to be the brightest, and the leaves that are behind another leaf, you want to make sure that you get some of that shadow colour, so you can see which leaf is supposed to be the one that's in the foreground and which one is in the background. And then I added some highlights with a white Pitt pen. So I decided to use a white Pitt pen because I used a little bit of my white Posca pen on the flowers as a highlight, and I felt like it was a little bit too opaque to use for my leaves, because white Pitt pen is a little bit more translucent, and I feel like if I add that in first, and then I can see if I want to add something a little bit more opaque afterwards. And then I was dabbing my finger over it because it makes these like white dots that I didn't really want to see, so I was just kind of trying to push those white dots away with my finger. And Kyra over at Picture Purpose used more highlights on her leaves, but I don't know, I felt like I was a little bit hesitant on using so many highlights because I had coloured that shadow right up until that black line, and I did it quite closely, and I feel like maybe if I was aware of where that white highlight should be, then maybe I would have done it a little bit differently. I don't know, so I'm still learning on how to do white highlights. Yeah. And now moving on to the cups, I decided to use the same colours, those 3 colours, so the chrome oxide green, May green and ivory, even for the seaweed. So I was tempted to use a different colour for the seaweed to make it look more like an underwater thing, with maybe like some turquoise or cobalt green or something like that. But I felt like using the same colours made the whole page feel a little bit more uniform. So there it is. That's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching until the end. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.